with him, pushing the finals for a couple of those open cups and just always being that up-and-coming Terran, where Gerald is a little bit new. And speaking of, in the bottom right of Death Aura, we do have the blue Protoss, Gerald.
Very powerful. And will he stay forever up and coming, or will he up and come? It is souL.
I like to think that if someone comes up and does well and then immediately drops back down, we're like, well, he came and he went.
Yep. He's no longer up and coming.
Yeah.
Up and going, I guess? No. Down? No.
Up and leaving.
Up and leaving.
Right. Oh, man.
What is this matchup? Just walk me through it, because I am so bad.
Okay, all right. So TVP is it's actually, I would say like a very diverse matchup right now. There's a lot of different openings you can do. There's even a couple of one-base builds you can do that are still pretty clever and annoying. But generally, while like most TVPers, whatever you want to say, have figured out the matchup, we do really have to emphasize that souL has had different TVP than anyone else. Gerald's also slightly different PVT. Much more emphasis on getting to big splash units than necessarily about big gateway surges or anything like that. But souL, I've always thought souL was I think of it as aggressive because I think of Terran players TVZ first and foremost. But we've definitely seen this TVP that he actually, as you were pointing out on the desk, right? Like he'll just be like, oh, I'm winning 6 command centers. And you're like, no, just go win the game. And he did that a lot in some of his round robin matches, which, sometimes to a good effect and sometimes he, kind of sort of threw.
Yeah, he can really do that, it seems. And Roddy was accurately pointing out as well for us that he is a macro machine, like maybe more than anyone else. You say he is aggressive in TVC, and I agree in the sense that he has some of the best multitasking ever, right? So he looks like he's everywhere and like he's amazing at that. But still, I think he mostly strives for the long games, like through his perfect compositions and to his, this is exactly what you need type thing. Like he has this recipes that extend further than anyone else's recipes, right? Down to you can't win unless you have 10 commands to 10 orbital commands or something like that.
Yeah, you're right. I just need to fix my vocabulary. It's more about his multitasking and him just as a fast player than necessarily just actually aggressive. Not so much the 2-raxer or anything like that. But yeah, of course, anyone can do that at any point. And I do feel like in a best of 5 in a TVP, even you also want to be throwing out some of those cheeky openers, and a reactor factory kind of is one of them. It can leave the Protoss player guessing a little bit because they, the Hellions don't do a lot of damage, but they'll still out micro you for a lot. So you don't see if they're going for 4 Hellions, if their starport's proxied, if it's the Widowmine follow-up, which in this case it is, and then actually immediately swapping back onto the tech lab there. So very safe follow-up here for souL. souL gotten much scouting? Not yet. Hellions are partially here for scouting, so they do want to get across the map.
All right, so here comes the first Oracle, and we're going to have to be looking where those Widowmines that you were talking about are going to be placed, but they're actually going to leave the base. How do you feel about this?
Oh, that's not going to be too great. They also miss the Oracle. They catch the Adept, but that's not quite as dangerous. In just a second, Marines will buy some time. Oh, the Adept will get in.
Okay.
This actually is going to be an over-investment, though, from Gerald. Yeah, if he knew that a Cyclone was going to pop out, I think he skedaddles, but he thought he caught kind of a opportunity there with the lower supply depot, so not the best.
Yeah, he was in the worst possible location, right? Like, it spawned, like, right under him, so never lucky there. And now souL has a strong opening. Gerald seems ready for it, though.
Yeah, I think... Nice. So souL had to take into consideration, okay, that was actually a Stargate opener. You have to be careful with the medevac. If Gerald were to be able to bop the medevac, I'd actually say that it's, back to being kind of good for Gerald, but looks like souL will be able to save it.
Yeah, it looks like it. Would you ever consider suiciding that Phoenix for the medevac? Like just running it into the medevac with the mine shots? Or is it too, how important is the Phoenix versus the medevac here, you think?
That's actually a very good question. I don't think so, just because especially 2 Widowmines we're covering, which will kill a Phoenix. But funnily enough, The one thing the Phoenix is definitely supposed to be doing is keeping track of the medevac, and it lost track of it. Luckily, he was starting to look for it, so when he realized, oh my god, where is it? He looked back to his natural. Unfortunately, loses the Stalker, which is a good enough trade for the Widow Mine. I don't think he'll get away with the medevac again. Like, that shouldn't happen. The Phoenix should absolutely be chasing it. Phoenix, why? Why? Don't let it go.
I mean, that mine is going to drop one more time and maybe kill that Phoenix at this point. So Gerald dropping the ball a little bit. And this other Widow mine is actually in the main. Okay, he's paying attention to it. I'm not sure why he stopped chasing with some probes and brought them the ones from the main. But it'll work. The Widow mine will kind of escape. And this one, okay.
All right. I mean, that just took longer than it was probably supposed to, especially because, you know, Gerald was using his other units to look for this. And while it does get cleaned up and everything is hunky-dory here, like, Gerald didn't have a ton more scouting. Does he have a sentry? No. So, yeah, he didn't even get a hallucinated Phoenix over on the other side of the map. That's a little bit concerning, but if we're calling souL as a supreme macro player, then I think Gerald is also calling it, right? And souL has been doing this exactly, too, in most of his PVTs, which is going for drilling claws. So, more defensive. I think Gerald maybe figured, you know, I could spend a lot of time doing this. I'm not actually worried about being pushed.
Pretty cool. So that Viking is trying to spot any, like, warp prisms, I assume, leaving. The Stalkers are just gonna try and keep tabs of Weird Blink and on the army in case it should move out, right? And try to slow things down, maybe check for a third. Who would you give the advantage to at this point?
Actually, maybe... Gosh, I don't know, because it's so hard to say, like, right now. What matters literally right now is you look at the numbers, because so much of it is when engagements actually happen. And usually I could tell you when that's going to happen. But again, souL plays actually kind of passive in this matchup. So I don't want to say it's really favored to anyone yet. Good links there from Gerald. Take a couple of Marines. They don't have combat shields, so it's a little bit easier, but then sticks around a little too long. No.
2 Stalkers for his troubles, so that's a little bit concerning. Will souL push off of this? No. Phoenix seems to have reclaimed this high ground. More Widow mines on the way.
There's the Templar Archives. I mean, Gerald's actually played very heavily into the Gateway production this time around. So playing a bit differently than he was in maybe the Open Cup earlier this week. And emphasizing the High Templars. It's kind of funny how that has evolved, by the way. Just like the High Templar after Twilight Council was so anticipated. Ghosts were always on the way, just didn't do it. Now we're back to doing it all the time. Those are drilling claws. They burrow super fast. Oh my god, 16 probes. Oh no, even if the medevac went down, that is still, it's a net gain there for souL.
Oh, that's incredible. I mean, I love what Gerald is doing otherwise, right? Taking an extremely fast fourth, it feels like. And kind of securing his mineral lines with photon cannons. He just wasn't expecting the drilling claws, I guess, this early. And not really a reaction there. So loses 16 probes. That's gutting.
It's brutal. Because he was about to, he was like literally going to be saturating his fourth by building more probes. And now he's got to resaturate his third, which actually did not take that long. That's what happens when you have 3 Nexus. But it looks like souL went for a double drop to the right side, even scan to see if an observer was going to be there. It's not there. It's on the other side, so it didn't scout it. The Stalkers will find a push out to the third. And the Phoenix will scout the medevacs, but actually, I think Gerald's going to be okay. He has a large army in his natural right now.
Yeah, very nice reaction for souL, knowing that he should stim and push on fourth to try and catch a Stalker, and he does end up doing exactly that. We'll also spot another base, and this is what we were talking about. He is really good at aggression. He is very good at being everywhere, and that's what we're seeing here. So...
he has to be careful not to forget about either the Cyclone, which you don't want to just have kill a Nexus. There you go. And he also has to remember that left side army was still available. So I thought the Cyclone was going to be dangerously close to distracting him from the main. The main is actually cleaned up not too poorly, but that left side, a scan reveals nothing but those gateway units. A shield overcharge, to be fair. souL might commit to this. Okay, there come the High Templars. I was like, they kind of need to get coming over here. All right, he should be fine with the storms.
They feel a little bit late to the party, these guys, right? I was expecting a 3-prong, but something must have stopped souL on this side. I mean, the Stalkers earlier delayed, but I don't think that was enough of an excuse for this army to be so far out of position.
Oh.
And now they're going to move on to a fourth, but it's the only attack happening, and I'm surprised he even stims at this point.
I mean, 17 probes just went down at the third base again. He didn't realize that there was Widow Mines still in a medevac, so that is a brutal economic loss. His aggression isn't getting him the big kills, and even a lot of these high Templars did end up surviving, but he is damaging the economy. My question really is, can he actually, it's a 1-2, and then you want to gut punch him, right? Well, I'm not sure if souL actually is going to be able to gut punch Gerald when there's storms available as well as disruptors on the way, but damn, he is killing a lot of probes.
Oh, I mean, these Widow Mines have just made the entire game for souL so far. Otherwise, Gerald, like you said, has been taking good engagements. Anytime souL moves his army, it doesn't seem to go over too well for him. But this medevacs with the Widow Mines, just nasty.
I mean, Gerald really is, this is funnily enough a position that he's familiar with. Maybe not this exact position, losing to Drilling Claws, Widow Mines, but being behind. He still has these two forms of splash. One that doesn't really have a direct counter, right? Disruptors, you split against them. Liberators kind of counter them. So he has still come back from greater deficits than this, but I'm sure he's very frustrated right now, and he's trying to remind himself to be patient and just wait for the good opportunity when the battle finally comes.
Oh, you give me a little bit of hope. And he, on the other side, souL is a player that has been in this position multiple times too, and now he has to close it out, and that's what he sometimes struggles with. So we'll see whose curse is strongest here, I guess. Gerald pushing out whilst there is 3 medevacs flying towards him. This is a little bit scary.
He could recall, certainly has the energy for it. I don't know what, he's going to commit to the attack, though. So it's actually going to turn really, really awkward. Does he recall or does he commit? He's going to recall. I think that is the much safer response. Loses 7 probes to the Widow Mine, but should be able to clean this up. He's got storms, he's got a disruptor. He's going to lose a couple of these units, but keeps his army mostly alive.
Yeah, well done. I also like the recall. I mean, running into that choke with that many ghosts on the other side of the map, I don't think it would have gone too well unless he found some amazing disruptor shots. Look at that army. I mean, as far as army complexity and just macroing and getting there, souL is one of the best, and he's getting there.
Yeah. It's starting to feel a little bit worrisome for Gerald, though, as I've not seen him work against mass liberators. Most of the time nowadays, it's actually not even about transferring over into Tempest or Carriers. That is still one of the direct options, but more so it's about controlling the game, especially getting DT Blink. That's really come into its own as an upgrade, not just a lol Fear Dragon thing, but no, actually it's really, really quite useful. You're distracting the Terran, keeping pressure on their expansions, which really lends to the power of the disruptors. They should come down together, almost like a Nidus Woman, a Swarm Host.
That's pretty cool. So the Blink DTs are mostly just used as a distraction, jump in, click something, and when your opponent is doing something else, you run in type thing?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty cool.
It's just disruptors seems like quote unquote easy enough for pros to deal with, but you add DTs in there, big zealot run bys, it gets a little more complicated. But one of the things about affording those DTs is that you're supposed to have a decent economy yourself, and Gerald just keeps losing probes. We're at 78 total probes killed to 1 SCV. Just 1.
78, you said? Wow.
9 now.
Oh no. And yeah, I mean, Liberators with range are gonna be very difficult, though souL is one of the persons that complained the most about the lack of extra range that the Liberators used to have when they got nerfed because of Disruptor specifically. He thought those were too strong, so we'll see if that's still a thing that bothers him, as there are 2 Disruptors available for Gerald, who is kind of gonna do souL a favor and kill the SCVs that now he wants to lose.
He has a Stargate. I'm surprised he hasn't made a Phoenix. Oh, there it is. I was like, I just missed it being produced. That is going to be the easiest option. I would say maybe even 2 or 3, you know, because Widow Mine drops are still a problem for him too. Kind of cover literally all your bases.
Yeah, I would love to see that, or more cannons added. I mean, Gerald does have a strong army, but I'm not sure if it's strong enough to contend with the ultimate Terran army, and that's, I think, what we're seeing from souL, more or less.
souL has really gotten to quite a perfect army. Perfect would be +2 ship weapons as well. That would be perfect. And he still has to make sure to control it.
Into actual literal perfect? I mean, that transition into those is so hard, but is there an answer, Jess?
With 12 battle cruisers would be the perfect army. But this is getting close enough. And as long as souL is paying attention, always have his Liberators sieged up, he'll be impenetrable. Gerald's gonna have a lot of difficulty actually pushing through, but what he's doing is still very key. He's got to keep tabs on the 5th bases, the 6th bases, not let him just continue to expand.
Yeah, I think that's going to be super important. The sensor towers are going to have something to say about that, though, as it's going to make it easier for souL to maneuver around the army of Gerald, who has to go quite far away. Actually, there's very little room to walk in this map that isn't covered by those sensor towers if you're looking to try and find openings from the side of souL. You see what I'm saying? Like the chokes in the middle are so choky that you can't. You have to go way out to walk outside of them. Jeez.
Death Ore providing to be quite the macro map when you look at it in this way. When you start reaching towards the fifth, though, it's supposed to be a lot more complicated, and it is. souL, though, with a triple drop, really wants to dig into this third base. This has been where most of the probes have been slaughtered, but the Nexus has stayed alive at the very least. And, gosh, the Liberator also still doing a lot of damage. Phoenix take forever to actually kill it. Gerald's going to eventually clean this up, but once again, 17 probes go down.
Yeah, and once again, souL showing how good he is at harassment and not just being everywhere. How does he do this? He just has Liberators everywhere arriving at the same time, mines, drops. One thing that I would have liked from him, for example, is to try and take advantage of the lack of recall at some point, right? Try to punish that from Gerald in the timing window where he's not going to have it. But hey, Gerald is the one that's going to find a little bit of an opening. But the Liberators drop.
I wonder if that was a little bit of like, you know what, fine. And then, you know what, actually, no. Like, just kidding. Like, he might be getting a little frustrated, not being able to crack souL and still taking so much damage as well. But I mean, if he just takes a second and realizes that he's lost 104 probes and he actually still has a maxed out army on 5 bases, like, I don't know. I think you still feel like you have a chance, but it is going to get more and more complicated.
And nukes are in production. So we were talking about attention being split and how good the DTs are. I think nukes are really good for a very similar reason, right? It makes you look everywhere, basically, when you hear nuclear launch detected. So it's something that we're seeing come into play a little bit more. Here's the Blink DTs.
All right. So, I mean, that was a pretty well set up base. A tank on the high ground as well is going to be difficult to actually take down. No observer can get up there. But with Blink, that's pretty good. A main fight going on the right side. A lot of storms going down. A lot of Liberators. Oh my God, Gerald's actually going to take this fight. And by taking, do I think he's going to win it? No way. There are so many Liberators. He's actually pushing through.
Use it, please.
Oh my God.
I have no idea how that Templar's alive, but he is just lazy.
I cannot believe Gerald actually saw a weakness. Oh my God. If he actually wins, his soul is going to be so tilted. I'm tilted. Oh my God. Gerald. Oh, he finally found his opening.
And this looks beautiful over here. The disruptor shots are all going to connect, and now choosing to use that storm is a little bit weird to me. But I guess he really wants to get rid of this planetary fortress as soon as possible. This was an amazing opening that Gerald managed to find, Jess.
I cannot believe it. I mean, that's the opportunity you're looking for when the Liberators all siege at once and they're clumped up. But when we're talking +2 Liberators and the counts of like 10 or 12 or whatever it was, usually you're still not going to come out ahead or even. I guess we could say that it's still maybe a little bit worse for Gerald because he did lose so much army and he also has never been on a good economy. But like, as far as the actual trade went, I mean, that's supposed to be not in favor of the Protoss, but they have 6 bases and then they remax. Oh man,
at the same time, I mean, you were foreshadowing quite clearly and for good reason how you should use these DTs a lot of the time, right? To force your opponent to look elsewhere, and maybe that plays a huge part that allows Gerald. I mean, we were looking at the DTs when the fight started, right? So that maybe is the opening that Gerald forced onto himself, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, souL needs to get everything back to being set up again, right? Like he needs to get his bunkers or his tanks covering, or in this case, I mean, he'll probably use his Liberators to cover these orbitals because you don't really want to remake tanks, but how frustrating. It is still looking okay for souL, especially because he just kills 8 more probes. But, I mean, that's the power of Gerald's army. He certainly showed that, and even down 30 army supply because souL did have more economy there. We know that disruptors can change 30 army supply pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a huge reset as well as far as the complexity of the army for souL, right? There's still a lot of Liberators, but only 2 Ghosts remain. So that's got to be a pretty big win for Gerald altogether. I feel like before the fight, he wasn't in a much worse position right now. I don't know. I would even maybe say he has a slight advantage. Difficult to say.
It is, yeah. Just because Gerald was so slow to rebuilding his economy, he never had one. I wonder if we'll get to 200 probes killed in this game. I'm kind of hoping for it. This is kind of reset here. Good looking out for all the Nexus, first and foremost, when you start dealing with nukes.
Ooh.
The DT here is going to make sure that an orbital doesn't sneak sneak its way over, because that's all that he's left down to is orbitals. Looks like a Warp Prism just tried to fly in to the left side, by the way, but high sec auto tracking is done, so it had no chance.
All right, a little bit of a sellout run, but there is still that tank on the high ground you mentioned earlier, so that's nice for him. And with this liberation zones, it's going to be a little bit too hard for Gerald to engage. So souL's still in a pretty strong position army-wise, pushing on 4th too.
Well, the medevacs are still important. I wouldn't let them go. Okay, just boost them away. And they've had the medevac boost upgrade, by the way.
Oh, nice. Yeah, he has like every upgrade at this point, huh?
Yeah.
He's really been working hard on those.
Oh, disruptors from the backside.
Oh, no!
He sees it. Okay. That's going to be it, I think. Gerald, his armies, he wasn't able to take any trades past that one amazing fight, and souL's economy has really kicked in. His resources lost actually quite similar. He has the mules, he has the orbitals.
Yeah, 15 more probes just died at 6 o'clock. So yeah, that is looking really dire for Gerald. Every time we think that he might have a chance, you just look at the probes dead on the side, and it's always like 16. It's not good.
Oh man.
How many are we at, Jess? What's the counter right now?
145 probes killed.
Nice.
I just hope that he makes up to 55 probes, just so they can all die. We get to 200.
Yeah, he needs to make a few more at the moment to give us potentially a world record. It would be cool to keep track of stats like this, right? Like so we could know in real time that we're breaking a world record of probe skill.
Right. Yeah. I wonder if that's like, there can't possibly be stats that Blizzard bothers to keep. But
nah, probably not.
Oh, 12 Liberators. You can't deal with this. There's no way. You have to catch like 4 maybe. EMP hitting the High Templars. They're not going to get any shots. Disruptor going down. Desperately throwing them out. But this has got to be it. Gerald's going to try and continue to live. But man, I think he's going to force like a base trade if he really hopes to live.
Here's the High Templar flank. I mean, this could be the best chance that he's going to get it. Gets a pretty good storm. But yeah, the Liberator's now sieging. It's looking difficult. I thought those 2 High Templars on the low ground might have been able to get storms off, but Gerald was very good about storming about EMPing before his army got in vision. So yeah, he's sold rather. He's keeping tabs on everything, looking really strong right now.
I'm really surprised Gerald didn't try to force the base trade. I mean, I would have liked it before he lost his Disruptors and High Templars, and even then, I think it's a desperate thing. But I think it was the only desperate thing that would make sense. Like, if you just try and buy time against Liberators, well, that's great if you have an economy to buy time, but Gerald didn't, so maybe need to pull the trigger a little bit faster.
You didn't like the Disruptor flank?
Well, no, I mean, I think I'll always like it, because there's a chance that it works out, but I think it still wasn't a weird enough game to make those Disruptors work. And this is the death push here from souL.
Yeah, I thought it was a good attempt, but yeah, since then it's just looked so difficult. Oh, okay, something. I mean, supply-wise, it doesn't look undoable, but looking at the map and looking at the tools, especially, right, like the army here is just so very basic on the side of Gerald.
He's going to be down to, I mean, he's literally down to 1 base mining, very oversaturated. If he had taken a fight before this defending army back at home looked as big as it is, I think also that's why I wanted a base trade. Now it's slowly been getting 2 Marauders at a time, which is just a little too beefy unless the storms are perfect, and they're not. EMP'd instantly.
The snipes are good, and with that, I think the last 2 High Templars are just gone, and Gerald doesn't even have the guts to reproduce another one, so he has no units that can make magic happen. Literally, I guess. The High Templars are pretty magical, but yeah, he's got this basic units. They're never gonna trade better than they're gonna trade.
Geralt just, I mean, hey, he took such great engagements, is really keeping on in this game. I feel like you tap out though, right? You've finally gone up against souL, which I'm sure they do on ladder, but still, you've gone up against souL, you've kind of felt out his playstyle. It is very different than other Terrans, and now you just worry about the second game. So finally we have that tap out. Still an overall fun game, but I really appreciate that game because it felt like it made us look smart. That was exactly the way I thought that it would play out with these 2 players. And now I think the question is, who gets too stubborn, who just does the same thing over and over again and loses 3-0, and who can actually adapt to a best of 5 series.
Absolutely. And I mean, on the side of Gerald, you kind of have to adapt in a way that's, I don't know, get more vision, more observers, right? Don't get surprised by those drops. Harassment, for example, I think is very good at having vision to give himself a heads up with observers. It's an expense, but against the likes of souL, he's going to drop you everywhere. If you don't have vision, he's just going to out multitask you.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's always scary to just be like, especially for Terran players, I feel like it for PVTs to be like, well, I guess he'll just be defensive. I mean, apparently that is how souL plays, but you never want to totally rely on that. We're going to be going into Ice and Chrome next. And I do think that's a map where you can say, okay, it'll be very similar to the last game. And that's where I can maybe go for a build that pumps out 5 observers, or maybe you go for the Stargate build again, because that's, Phoenix are great against dealing with that. Maybe we see Phoenix Colossus at one point, specifically for anti-souL early game. But it is a little bit more on Gerald to actually change things up since he's down 1 in the series.
It really is. I do think another possibility would be something like more Phoenix than 1 Phoenix. You talked about it during the game as well. The 1 Phoenix was just not cutting it. But yeah, I mean, we're gonna have to see some adjustments from Gerald, and it's not like he was not accounting for what souL likes to do, right? Like he placed pretty early cannons in each mineral line. It just was nowhere near enough. Really fast drilling claws caught him by surprise, and then caught him by surprise like 5 more times.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's the power of drilling claws. The armory being available is one thing. Drilling claws, making them actually speed burrow, that's an entirely different thing. You still have to split against it. So it's difficult. Maybe Gerald just needed to be kind of slapped awake a little bit, and we'll see what happens in game number 2. Ice and Chrome has a couple of nice push positions for Terran as well, worth noting, if we assume that souL also is willing to change things up.
Absolutely. So yeah, I'm excited for this one. Generally speaking, I think that there's a misconception when it comes to StarCraft 2 and high level play in how difficult the game gets. I personally think that as you become better and better, the game gets easier in many ways, in the sense that you don't have to react to those drops instantly if you have a heads up. Right, so for example, for Zergs, it's pretty straightforward, right? Like spreading overlords is a good thing, and then you have a heads up, and then if you have a heads up, yes, spreading overlords is extra actions, but all of a sudden you won't just lose to those medevacs. So just to stress on vision, I would love to see a little bit more of that from this man. It is on the bottom left-hand side of the map, Gerald.
And in the top right, his particular style of TVP really working out for him. He is the red Terran, souL. People in chat are asking how many probes ended up dying. I believe it was something like 172, and then there's only 2 probes left to kill. So we were never going to get to 200. Womp womp.
That's still quite a few. I'm not sure. I mean, there must have been games with more, definitely, especially with Terran suiciding their SCVs and whatnot. Yeah. But killed, like intentionally killed by your opposing player, it has to be up there, maybe top 5 or top 10 games. That's a lot of probes.
So far, I'm pretty proud of my own game. I killed like 194 drones.
Jeez, nice. Hellions?
Oh yeah, blue flame Hellions. Guy never makes mine crawlers.
Nice.
Yeah, that's my personal record. I'm not sure if there's a bigger one. I gotta imagine back in Heart of the Swarm, and I'm sorry everyone, we're gonna be, feeling physical pain for me to bring up Heart of the Swarm and Swarm hosts again, but I gotta imagine some of those games have a lot of workers killed, right? Because Terrans would just build 17 command centers and rebuild SCVs. Yeah, so.
Definitely. I mean, Swarm hosts were pretty crazy back then. So, yeah, you're right. Probably in Heart of the Swarm, we saw a lot more workers killed in those 2-hour games. So, all right. So the game started here. Gerald with a scout managed to make souL place the CC slightly off position, so a minor annoyance, but I don't think it's too huge, right?
Nah, not at all. It's worse to think that it's a huge deal, than actually just be like, okay, whatever.
Yeah, and I feel like this adept wants to, in the best case scenario, delay the CC, but this is one of the larger maps, I would think. So I don't think it's gonna get there. Or is it one of the larger maps, Jess?
It's the same as our Everdream, actually.
Oh, really?
It's very, because like the misconception, right? Like it's so easy to say that this map left to right makes it large, and it is. It's just that from natural to natural is what we talk about.
You're gonna have to give me those notes so that I can know where to 1 to 12 pull.
I'll fax them right over, Cass.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Probe might end up dying here. Nothing's actually back to defend it. Wait a minute, what happened? Why is the Stalker being lazy?
I'm not sure. The Probe's also not mining that gas as quickly as they could have. I think the Stalker was maybe looking to find the Reaper where he's gonna find him now. So that's something. The Adept distracting on the other side of the map now might look to sandwich this Reaper if the Stalker keep tabs on it, but it doesn't look like he will be able to.
Oh, so Roddy's gonna be excited about this. I think he's still taking credit for calling it, 2 weeks ago. But charge first. Now, I actually don't know if it's going to have an outcome in this game. So far, from what I've seen, it's actually not had outcomes in any of the PVTs. But I think the idea is that, oh, well, hold on. Oh, no, never mind. I was going to go into going charge before blink as opposed to vice versa, but this actually might be a little more nefarious. You brought up that the probes aren't mining all of the gas. I think that is on purpose. He's going to do a bit of a charge attack, not all in, on top of the SCVs, and then actually play out a bit of a macro game. Saw this against Clem, I believe. So we've really been hyping that series up. I definitely suggest watching it, guys, but only after you see this game. Oh, seeing that Warp Prism after seeing the Twilight Council, I think he might have an idea. I mean, what else does it mean? At the very least, it means some form of aggression, even if it's just harassment.
On the back of how many gateways, or how would he know aggression?
So if you see a Warp Prism, but there's a Twilight Council, it's very unlikely there's a robotic spade for like Disruptor or Colossus drop, right? So you're thinking either it's a bit of Blink Stalker aggression, which is fair, or if you know Gerald, you might be anticipating the charge. Just because you wouldn't build a Warp Prism otherwise, you build a Warp Prism to do something with it, right?
Right. Yeah.
So he's already prepared, though. Yeah, he scanned it.
Bunker
just barely.
As well. All right, so here is the Zealots, but there's going to be a bunker and a tank there, so that's not going to do too much. Like you said, though, this isn't too committed aggression, right? It's just like a warping of Zealots and an attempt to macro, but wow, this Banshee. Oh, no.
Kind of ruining his day. This is the downside of going for that charge first, especially if the charge lots don't really do anything. He does have the ability to make an observer, but the first one was going across the map, so if it had been here, this is probably only the 5 probe kills. They having to come back.
Recall was used kind of weirdly, right? Like Recall was used weirdly for that Adept. I'm not sure that it needed to be saved where he was. Maybe it did, but yeah, not having it available now. The observer might have been a little bit better. And now, or was it available? I'm not sure if it already reset. And now here's the Banshee potentially, actually not going.
Oh, this is just a little bit of a twist of souL's opener to really get him a great lead. I mean, he was already defensive. I think he was building a bunker, honestly, before he saw the Warp Prism, so I think he was already thinking about aggression. Maybe the third base timing kind of told him some info. And on top of that, for his Banshees to just not be anticipated by Gerald is, I mean, it was deadly. Like this, actually, he's going to need some type of comeback maneuver. But hey, that was the story of last game, and he certainly almost made the comeback.
Yeah, this time around, falling behind a little bit earlier than last and to less units. And souL is so safe. I mean, we've been shown by the wonderful observer how he's set up in every single base, right? Like bunkers, mines, tanks. You can't break this.
I feel like it might have been against the Blink Stalker idea, but it works against the charge lots, doesn't it? You know, like whether souL knew specifically what it was or not, it works out against both ideas. Gerald still wanted to get to like some fairly fast storm, but certainly he wanted a faster third than this, and the ability to kind of control souL with a tech lead while building up the economy he pushed off for a while. And now he had to push off the economy so much that he's not even really getting any positioning advantage. He's even losing more probes technically. His Banshees are still alive.
Yeah, sadly. I mean, he's not even caught up in workers, right? For like the last 3 minutes he's been behind. And that's not something that you want in PvT. And this is what we were talking about. This is where you almost want souL to go for it, right? Like go for an attack. Maybe his third CC, I guess, is on the way, but his force looks so large. I don't know. This is the kind of game where I'm like, okay, like it's impossible for you to lose it if you just capitalize. I don't know how to capitalize. I'm not going to pretend like I do, right? Like, I'm not a Terran player, but he has such a lead. I would hate to see him just drop a third, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth, and
Right, yeah, but that's the thing about souL, is that he seems a little more on the side of caution. I don't want to call it fear unless, you know, we hear it from souL himself, but for me, a Terran player who plays like this isn't like super confident. It is definitely the safest way to play. I mean, the one thing you can do against a guy who can use disruptors, who can use high tempos on Warp Prism, you can throw the game by moving yourself into an open portion of the map and being surprised. So if you play defensive, it's a bit safer, but you're right, it might lose him the lead he's got. So I'm glad that he is pushing. Just got to be really careful about it. And that third base, well, he knows actually that it's quite undefended. This Banshee is literally trying to kill a Stalker right now. There's one High Templar available, one in the back. There's no Ghost yet, so maybe the Storms can save the day.
Yeah, and this is a good corner to cut against the likes of souL as well, right? Like, maybe he doesn't have enough because he didn't think that this was a possibility, and there goes the one Storm. Is he gonna have enough, Gerald, that is to defend here?
Oh, good feedback. Good feedback. I don't know. He's got to deal with the tanks, too, and I think that's going to be more so from coming from different directions. This Storm on the right side would have been beautiful, but he didn't have enough energy. And that's a lot of bio left over. The drops on top of the tank, there were Storm drops. So they actually come after the bio. They get sniped. That was just all types of awkward. That's not going to be good enough. No, it isn't.
Yeah, it's awkward, but it's going to favor souL any types of trades right now. It also means that neither player is advancing economically, which means souL is taking an advantage every second that passes, as he is ahead in workers and has the mules to work with as well. So this is pretty good. I think this is what if souL recognizes here, hey, you just used your two Storms, right? There's no more High Templars. Keep up the pressure and try to close out this game. That's what I want to see from him.
I mean, Gerald, if he had the Storms on the right side and the Warp Prism was full of Zealots to Zealot bomb the tanks, I think that was more of the situation that would have looked, 1,000 IQ. But it was the reverse, really. It's like the Storms were in the correct position and there was no Zealot taking care of the tanks. This does make it a lot easier for souL to just simply push through with overwhelming numbers, even if there's a Disruptor or a couple of Storms. He's got enough bio to make do. And Gerald, I mean, this game is a lot, once again, about those earlier probe losses, but his build also didn't work out like he wanted.
I am so proud of souL because he hasn't made an SCV in like a minute and a half. And that is amazing. And he will take the game, looked convincing, looked like he capitalized on his lead. I mean, it's something that we criticized him for. Certainly I did. And here he is. I love it.
That was little scary there. Gerald with the first game, we're like, okay, maybe he's warmed up. Maybe he's getting used to it. The second game actually goes worse for Gerald. So I don't know, maybe the next map can help him out, mentality-wise, or... I mean, he finally has a game where he just doesn't take a bunch of probe losses. Maybe that's what he just really needs to do. Eternal Empire, okay, I still have hope for Eternal Empire and PvT. I feel like there's so many amazing PvTs on this map. I feel like that's where Disruptor DT really shines, because you're talking about one of the biggest maps left to right, and pulling the army apart. But you got to get there. And Geralt so far is taking really crucial damage in the early game.
Yeah, he really has. I mean, to his credit, or maybe not to his credit, but at least going for him last game, it didn't feel like he had much of a say in the matter. Like, he chose his build and it looked impossible, right? And then it's like you just have no units for the Banshee and you're just not ready. And I don't know. It looked, maybe souL had a great read on him.
That's very possible. Especially if he thought that there was going to be a Twilight Council, which of course he also scouted going into the Banshees was a good move, because it's Geralt. Well, he went for a Stargate once, and that's usually good at scouting. The Oracle died, and then there wasn't any scouting. I noted that in the first game. In the second game, again, no scouting, as he's not even trying to go for like an early sentry hallucination. His observers aren't coming out, as quickly as possible. In fact, in that game, it was a Warp Prism. If souL is picking up on Geralt having a lack of scouting, that's very good on him. Very good best of 5. Able to diversify there. But Eternal Empire is another macro map, potentially our last map of the series. I still hope for a really good PvT. In the bottom left, up 2-0, he is the Red Terran, souL.
And coming from a big deficit right now, it is playing for X on Gerald. Now reverse sweeps. They are a thing. They are a thing that happens. They are a thing that could probably happen to souL, I feel like, but it's gonna be difficult. It's also when you're from the same country and you have like this internal ranking in your head of where you are, and you know, if you're a girl, you probably place yourself under souL, right? Realistically, it's difficult to overcome that kind of barrier.
It definitely is. I think that Gerald might be on a bit of a high, you know, lately with his performance, but it's actually like there's a thing that happens, like anyone who's ever done anything competitive can identify with, where like you reach that new height and you're like, wow, I feel amazing. And then you kind of like something happens, you get pushed back down, right? And you're like, okay, but I still got a little bit better. I'm just not quite as at that peak constantly yet. You know, let's talk about people's peaks and the usual play. Maybe Gerald had a couple of peaks. Maybe he still needs to actually work on being super consistent. I mean, hell, that was actually one of souL's problems earlier on in his career, is being consistent. And in fact, it's still a narrative for souL, to be honest. Like if he 3-0s here, then we're just going to be like, all right, souL's really finally performing in a tournament and not just getting knocked out early on.
Definitely. I mean, still, it's not like souL would be beating, you know, he would be beating the up-and-comer. I would still want a little bit more from him, even if he 3-0s here, but that would be a great start for him. And you talk about consistency, Jess. I completely agree. It's so difficult and so rare in StarCraft 2 to do something like what souL has been doing, to be as consistent as he has been for so long. I think even when you look at players like Innovation, who's very well in the running for the best Terran ever to have played this game, he has periods of fluctuating down, of inconsistencies. It's near impossible to just keep playing your best all the time.
Yeah, it really, really is. That's why souL is, you know, quite amazing. That's why Innovation, over the 7 years he's been playing StarCraft 2, has been really amazing. What also is amazing is Gerald down 2 maps going for a hidden Dark Shrine. It's amazing because it's risky, and it's amazing because it's a risk that Gerald takes a decent amount. So for souL to be paranoid of this and to get a Raven, I feel is likely.
Well, I am hoping that Gerald has something to bring here and maybe takes a cheeky fast win. I mean, that's kind of like what you need to reset momentum, is not put a lot of effort into a game and win it, right? Like if you can win a game quickly, then all of a sudden it doesn't feel so bad. And you might feel like you have a chance. If you try to like macro 3 games in a row and that's your plan, it just feels like such a mountain.
I'm not seeing souL go for a Raven yet. He could swap over, and getting a Raven doesn't automatically make you immune to DTs, but it certainly helps. Good block there. The Hellion not scouting. Oh, not good block there. I was talking about the Hellion, but the Adepts actually get in.
These guys are gonna get in and they're gonna kill a couple of SCVs. Good job identifying the one that was already bruised. And look at that, target indifferent. That's all the micro. Beautiful from Gerald, splitting those adept shots at the end there. We'll get 4 SCVs for his troubles, not too bad.
Ooh, this is looking better and better for Gerald. He's not only getting 4 probe kills, he's also taking a long time. Sorry, SCV kills. He's taking a long time to be cleaned up, which means that souL's not. He's thinking about cleaning this up. He's thinking about doing his build, not getting supply blocked. He's not necessarily thinking about what haven't I scouted, which so far is just 3 gateways at the front for a wall. So it doesn't really say Dark Templar. And he's actually going for an aggressive maneuver, a marine drop with a couple of units to help out. But these DTs, oh, will he have a scan? He's saving a scan for now. That's a good 20 energy pass. I feel like he's going to mule soon. Or maybe not.
I think he might. And even if he doesn't, I mean, the DTs defensively should be just fine as well. If this DTs manage to split. Oh my god, okay, one scan catches. Oh, actually both, but neither is gonna go down, and they're both gonna get out of scan range. So a little bit greedy of a scan will, a second one will net him, but now the medevacs on the other side, Jess, they can just be answered with a DT, right? There's no possibility of another scan.
That's a very good point. That's actually, it's good of souL to be able to survive. He's gonna lose a tank, he's gonna lose mining on his natural. A recall is used, I guess, from units that were in the middle of the map to deal with this. There are nothing but stalkers. Some of them might go down. No, Blink is done. Okay, so he will entirely clean this up while causing a lot of lost mining time on souL.
Yeah, but this Marine's trading somewhat efficiently. Okay, never mind. I like from souL that he actually dropped onto the... he had 2 medevacs, right? I think one went to the natural, so 5 probes end up going down, which is, I mean, a great effort. We talked about how those could get shut down easily by 1 DT, but if you split him, there's no chance for that. So I love his decision-making there to make the best out of the situation, but still, I love Gerald's position now.
It was a Viking in the natural. souL just taking some... whatever units he really could and throwing it at Gerald. And yeah, that Viking ended up getting the most benefits. But his DTs still at least tried to equalize. Currently with his 3rd Nexus having been building there an entire time, I do like Gerald's position a little bit more. But, you know, that's still... This could still change. I mean, we're actually going to have Drilling Claws once again, it looks like. Or at least Burrowed Invisible Widow Mines again. And we'll see if that can do a lot of damage.
Yeah, I mean, those did so much. It's so scary to see it in production. Would be my go-to if I were souL at this point. So we'll see what he's able to do. Gerald is going to camp outside of his base whilst establishing his 3rd economy. So things are going decently well for him. That said, though, I felt like those DTs could have just more or less ended the game. And they ended up not ending the game. So I feel like he could be in an even better spot.
I agree. Sometimes DTs do that. I love that the... Helene was about to dagger probe. Auto turret harassment's always annoying, and there's plenty of space for the Raven to stay off in the corner. No Stargate was built. So while the Stalkers are trying to find something to do, it's souL once again gaining the worker kill lead.
Indeed. So the Warp Prism will also be chased away. 4 probes is pretty good for those 2 auto turrets, I feel like, on the mining time lost. So nice job there by souL. Kind of equalizing things. It's the economy that worries me on his side of things. Is there a 3rd CC? Yeah, it's now completing the orbital command. So we're gonna see an attempt at taking that 3rd. Is it now Gerald's job to kind of stop that, Jess, or does he just let it go up at this point?
To stop the 3rd? No, I don't think that's his job. I think he'll be fairly happy seeing a 3rd and then just taking a 4th. And then we might see more action in the middle of the map. But as tempting as it might be to actually just bring along a bunch of Zealots, because he has a Warp Prism, because he has Charge, he's got to be super worried about these drops. He actually takes care of one very quickly. Good start.
Huge catch. Will suicide a Stalker there for his troubles, and the auto turret actually not able to do much, given there's now a shield battery in the natural base. So well handled for Gerald. But souL has traded his 3rd, and I'm not even sure that Gerald saw it. Well, at this point, you probably assume that that's happened on the back of it. And he does take a 4th indeed. So.
Well, souL's definitely macroing a bit worse than the previous games. During the DT shenanigans, he was pretty supply blocked, actually. I was looking at the energy and inadvertently seeing him not being able to produce. And then he once again just got really supply blocked, 4 supply depots at a time. I mean, little things, but little things on top of him already being a bit behind. I think that they are starting to, with Gerald appropriately reacting as well, killing the medevacs, taking the 4th base, I feel like things are going to inch more and more in Gerald's favor.
Yeah, it's looking like it. He's also going to take that Rich Vespin Geyser. How important do you think that is in this matchup?
I gotta imagine it's really important for Protoss. You know, they're building High Templars, they're building Disruptors, everything's gas intensive. No need to worry about, I guess, taking, you know, losses on those units. But I mean, he's not taking the 4th gas. That is his natural 2nd, I should say. So maybe it's only so important.
Yeah, well, still, the double gas is way more powerful. So maybe he's accounting for that and not changing his build up too much. Consequently, he's even taking a 5th base now. I like that, yeah, especially against the likes of souL. Do you think it's a little bit risky and this is a good move because he's going up against souL, because he's the underdog, or is he in such a good position that this is just fine?
Believe it or not, I think that even if it wasn't souL, and even if it wasn't this game, if it was just a game where the Terran was not constantly pushing into you through one reason or another, I think taking that 5th base actually makes a lot of sense. But on top of that, yeah, he's facing souL. He's got a bit of a... He should be in a confident position, I'll put it that way. I really like the 5th base. But it's about time for souL to start doing something to apply a little bit of pressure so he can also expand. And now Gerald is going to be tested. He's got army in the natural for this. This doesn't look like it's going to do a whole lot. It is a big drop, though.
Yeah, the auto turrets providing that extra buffer so that the rest of the medevacs can unload easily, but the photon overcharge will be used as well as some storm being brought back. There's not much else going on the other side except for these two medevacs, but they're gonna run into further cannons. I'm not sure I like this from souL. Not at all. In fact, I think these probes could be fighting, but the Widowmine, no! The Widowmine, no!
Oh, no, I don't think he noticed that there was a Widowmine. He pulled against the left one and then didn't realize there was a right one as well. That is unfortunate. He has taken care of both drops, so I think this is time for him to counter. Does he still have a Warp Prism? Yes, he does, and it's ferrying 4 High Templar. And that 4th base, it's not a planetary. This is actually going to be a bop in that command center. Where's souL's army?
I have no idea, but this is great. I mean, and that command center should have been set up as a PF. We saw it floating over, so like you were saying, maybe souL not as perfect this game on the macro department, on the being everywhere department compared to the other games. He seems to be, you know, breaking under the pressure a little bit.
A little bit. I mean, the supplies are still even, but now we got to talk about how souL has not been able to just easily transition into Liberators, which really gave him a lot of, basically a lot of power to be a little more passive, you know? Like, he could rely on them to defend, he could rely on the choke points the other maps were giving him, but now he doesn't have them. And in fact, it looks like he's lost track of the army. This Marine sees the entire army off to the right side. And that's a bit of a surprise. He's still got bunkers, he's still got tanks, but this 4th base, it's too bold. I don't know if he can actually take it.
These mines are well situated, and both of the disruptor shots were spent, but oh, these storms are so good, though. They were loading the Warp Prism, and now souL is gonna lose his 4th, and with that, Gerald is gonna secure himself an incredible position in this game. I mean, it's not all done. They're quite even in supply. souL still probably has a big attack left in him, and the EMP can always change the tides, but it's looking great for Gerald.
Yeah, it's looking fantastic. souL even feeling maybe a little bit desperate is going to initiate an all-out counterattack. Storm finds the middle drop, and more storms are available on the left side. souL, does he see it? He does. So EMP and a split away, but Gerald is now returning home. He's still got Archons, he's still got Disruptors, he's even trying to work on some Colossus. He barely couldn't take out the Raven. So Interference Matrix is the Warp Prism, which is a very good call, but Gerald actually doesn't have to even take this fight, but he's choosing to. Disruptors being thrown out to take care of the Widowmines. Tanks, not Siege. Warp Prism is finally not Interference Matrix, and here comes the Storm to maybe finally clean everything up. The supplies are surprisingly similar, but Gerald's going to have more reinforcements at the end of the day, and this is going to be the start of the comeback. Gerald taking Eternal Empire. souL's going to have to retreat and try again later, but on 3 bases, I don't think he can.
No, absolutely not. Now Gerald can just surge basically onto souL, and there's not much that he can do. He realizes it, and he's gonna tap out. We have a serious Jessica.
Eternal Empire never lets me down, cats. And I guess never lets Gerald down either. As I said, he starts the comeback. We're going to see if he's going to be able to continue it after this break. Welcome back, everyone. I'm still excited about that last game, what it means for the future of this best of 5. Perhaps the comeback is real. Perhaps Gerald just needed this confidence booster to adrenaline shot him up for Pillars of Gold. It's game for 4, and now he has at least a game under his belt. Say like, okay, my PvT is still good. Maybe I've got the souL guy figured out, or maybe Eternal Empire is lucky. I don't know. I think Pillars of Gold, we might have a bit of a different game just because it's not as much of an explored map, right? It's our newer map. People still kind of figuring it out. That actually might make a big difference when we compare it to our last map. Let's get into it.
Alrighty, should be an exciting one. And spawning in the top right-hand side of the map, it is the blue Protoss player, Gerald.
In the bottom left, still up 2-1. He is the Red Terran, souL.
What a game, what a game, what a series we have in our hands so far. I mean, the first 2 games, a little bit one-sided for souL, but now that last game looked pretty good for Gerald in spite of a DT start that went well, but I thought it could have gone better. I thought, wow, maybe souL is just too good for Gerald, and then he really played a brilliant game and continued to snowball and just do everything that he needed to do. So let's hope he can keep it up.
It did enough to warrant a 2-base DT play. You know, took some time to clean up. Still as a threat as well, kind of forces a Raven out. And then I also think that souL having his not do a whole lot, his opener, not do a whole lot was also pretty impactful. You know, if that was a failed, you know, an okay DT opener against someone who went immediately into 3CC, well then maybe it's a very, very different game. But souL has got his SCV.
Is this a proxy factory, Jess? What is this?
You don't really proxy a factory with only 1 gas, but he's not getting a Reaper or a reactor, so I guess it's very much so possible. You'd still have a command center though, like you still have enough rolls.
It's like the worst map to proxy a factory and float it into the main for sure, right? It's a tiny main, so I don't think that should be a thing.
I would never have thought of that, but you're absolutely right. It's too bad of a map for that. This might be for a starport. It is a proxy factory. I'm with you.
It's a proxy factory for a starport, because if he floats it in, I'll be pissed. Wow, Gerald though. What is this? There's a probe really near the proxy. He's gonna find it.
Wow. You know what?
Wow.
Being a Marine first, did that really tip him off enough? Dang. Or just
both Polish, they probably studied each other quite a bit, so we'll have to ask him if we get an interview with him, which we probably won't, but maybe Twitter, I don't know.
Yeah, right, yeah. Someone ask him on Twitter for us. That is pretty sick for him, though. I mean, he finds it at a time where it's not the worst thing to cancel and rebuild, but do keep in mind that factory timings are usually pretty important. Because we're talking about the Adept coming, maybe even a Stalker. It's quite annoying. Actually, his bunker's already done, so I'm not too worried. But it still pushes off the starport. It was absolutely a net gain for Gerald. But at least souL can recover.
I was looking at those supply depots because souL didn't raise them for the double Adept Shade in last game, and that was part of what contributed to the snowball of Gerald. So Gerald is going to continue to test the waters here. I'm going to shade in here.
He's doing a Dark Shrine again. That probe in the bottom right. So funny. So that's going to be unexpected.
Ooh. Did he do the proxy gateway last time? No, right?
I don't think so. No, he has 3 gateways
faster then. Because he's gonna run in DTs instead of warp prison or anything like that, right? He's just gonna go in from that proxy.
He has a faster warp in. The DTs in the last game were also just warped in, but I think you're right. It is going to be a bit faster. But the weird thing is that Terran players basically, and we saw it with souL. I think souL is very much so aware that his friend here is a DT player. They were saving scans from basically 4:30 to 5 minutes is like the safe time. And then if a DT player tries to do it was so late you didn't expect it move, that's when they get a little bit screwed. But I mean, in this game in particular, we're getting a Raven. So there's not even a reason to save a scan past, maybe a little bit of a save. And then, the Raven pops out.
That makes a lot of sense. And you said even with a Raven, though, DTs can sometimes find something. Does the Raven have to be out of position for this to happen? And do you send the Raven outside if you are the Terran player here? Is that your automatic? I have a Raven. I gotta go drop auto turrets, or?
You have to wait for the DT possibility. You have to, even though it's unlikely 2 times in a row, right? Like, you gotta save it.
It's happening. Oh man, and this is awful for Gerald. Will lose his first. Will not lose anything actually, but will lose his chance at least of doing any damage.
The thing is that Gerald might actually not mind this as a build as is. You know, like almost like you just went in the blank. You're using it because you want the rest of the game to go on. Is it great when it immediately gets a win? Of course it is. But I don't think you do this like Geralt does so often, not just this Best of 5, but like in other series I've watched of him, to not have a fairly confident follow-up.
I completely agree. But at the same time, you have to imagine the Raven is the best possible opener, right, for souL? In the sense that sometimes you can use the DTs and just be like, well, at least they're going to prevent a push because they need to save so much scan to move out or something like that. But this time around, the Raven could cause trouble for him and his opener. That said, the Raven is moving out, which is a little bit surprising.
I think this means he might not. Well, no, he has to move out because he's not going for any type of fast third CC this game. Well, he'll be able to pair that up with the army, assuming nothing catastrophic happens, like it runs into 7 stalkers, which it definitely won't.
Did he spot that medevac? He did. The stalkers are repositioning.
Oh.
Very quiet.
I'm pretty sure production yells at us for being very, very quiet. I think you're right. Choosing the safe option, going all the way back. Yeah.
I don't know if this is the best, but I like it. It seems like it's gonna work. At the same time, the Raven is gonna go into the main. The shield battery barely not ready.
It's annoying. Ooh, no, we didn't see it. No, he sees it. He sees it. No, he's not paying attention.
Saw the stalkers, I think, but the stalkers didn't see the medevac. As in, they did see the medevac, but he wasn't paying attention. He was probably looking at the auto turret. So my point is, souL is aware of the threat of the stalkers, whereas Geralt is not aware of where the medevac went.
That's kind of scary because now there's the auto turret plus Widowmine drop potential plus whatever else is coming to the middle of the map. And in this game, souL is definitely doing a more typical TVP push that Geralt should actually know about. He saw the lack of third CC. He saw the tech lab spinning. He should be anticipating that more direct push, and he's trying to find it. The Stalker's going to be on the wrong side of the fight. Widowmines do not end up catching a lot.
Yeah, but they do go in. I love that they go in as the stalkers move out, as they blink onto that marauder, and they have bought so much space for this army. This is the main gig of souL. So let's see if he's able to accomplish something. There are some zealots being warped in the main. There is a Widowmine with this army and another army secondary moving potentially into the third. Would not like to see that one into the natural. So let's see if the second force is able to accomplish much. The DTs have been pulled back, so they are going to be of great help. Wow.
So far, so good. I mean, Gerald had also an upgrade lead, so he could feel a little more confident using just his zealots up against the cornered bio. He's doing a decent job defending against the multi-pronged harassment, even finally getting the medevac, it looks like. But what about the follow-up push? The zealots are in position. They're all in the main base, including the Immortals. So the Widowmines get to burrow, and this is a little bit scarier.
Yeah, the batteries have been taken down at this point, so no possibility for overcharge. There are additional zealots, but one more Widowmine could be dangerous. Gerald catches it on time to reposition, and now with this zealots, he's going to be able to push souL back, but he is lagging a little bit behind in supply at this point, Jess.
Yeah, losing 16 probes is too much. I think if he had stopped at 9 or 10, plus he had taken down one of these medevacs, I'm like, okay, a bit of a trade, but these are not trades. This is actually just souL doing damage and then being able to mostly retreat. I say mostly, as Gerald is still sharking around. Gerald's going to have to start relying on the disruptor tech that he's gotten into. So I think maybe he's kind of temporarily forgotten. He's actually getting a third immortal. I would love to see more disruptors. Start the disruptors now, because you're going to need a few of them to really feel safe.
Yeah, and souL has been so good with this multi-prong harass. Like, he's not always committing a lot, but he is just everywhere. He's one of the best players in Europe, one of the best talents in Europe, if not the world, at just being everywhere and doing this. So he's going to do that one more time with 2 medevacs onto the main. No shield batteries here. Some army being split. The rest of it going to the third, but this is too little. And the Nexus will fall. It's looking amazing for souL now.
Now that third Nexus falling is just too much, and still nothing dying. The medevacs just keep picking things up. DTs are trying to do some serious damage on the other side of the map, and they do get a few SCVs, but they would have to take out an entire command center to really be an even trade. Maybe if the fight can go so one-sided, but I don't see that happening without a disruptor. Zealot's even coming in single file, which is usually not the ideal. All the stalkers being taken out because I guess Blink was on cooldown, or maybe Gerald was just distracted by the natural.
Oh, God.
This is too much.
Yeah, souL is just everywhere. I mean, Gerald trying to hang in there for as long as he can. These Immortals are gonna be as sad as he is. And they're like, what do we do, Master? And Gerald's like, I don't know. Just come back, I guess. But these medivacs continue to outmaneuver him. There's gonna be Zealots warped in, but I think this is Gerald on his last legs now.
He's not going to give up as long as he has a disruptor, I suppose. But without being able to deal with the medivacs, it's looking impossible. He's also not dealing return damage, and I don't know when he can actually afford to get another Nexus. He finally takes on a medevac. It's not even with any units inside of it. souL, with a, relatively simple push, is able to destroy Geralt eventually, just pushing enough times to finally find all the weaknesses.
Yeah, really, really well done for souL. Amazing multitasking, and really, I mean, that's what he does, right? Like, just tears his opponents apart. It's so scary, the prospect of fighting against a player like souL. Like, even just watching the game, you don't catch all of the things that he's doing, right? Like, at least I don't. Sometimes it's like, oh, he's also here, by the way. And it's like, I didn't see it, and I have full vision, so it's so frustrating. These disruptor shots are as good as you could ask for.
What am I going down
honestly?
To? Yeah. It's the start, man. But gosh, if he had maybe had a third during this entire time, I'm feeling good. Maybe he takes a hidden third. That would be pretty cool. It's not happening.
Those were award-winning disruptor shots, but you're gonna need to be the Gordon Ramsay of disruptor shots to make this happen.
Yeah. Now he's being a little trigger happy with the disruptors. He's got to keep in mind that if he doesn't have disruptors, his army does probably just die, which is almost what's happening here. Yep, disruptors went the wrong way. Still forces a pickup, though. And it looks like the third base will finish. Just not a whole lot of probes to really saturate it. Gerald's going to bring the pressure to souL. Hope for some miracle shots. Hope for just the army to work out. And actually, it's going to turn into a little bit of a base trade. He scans right in front of his base, realizing, oh, wait, it's a base trade. And now he's fully committed. That's not a large army, though, on Gerald's side of the map with souL's army. Most of souL's army is a tank with a lot of ghosts.
Yeah, if Gerald could at least get a hold of these SCVs that ran away from souL, that might be something to play from. That's quite a few, but unfortunately, they're gonna manage to hide and return back to mining as soon as the army of Gerald pulls back, because there's nothing else for them to do on that side of the map once the third has been lifted.
Does Geralt know about this army retreating? You try and go for a disruptor ball. He's not going to get the opportunity. souL is paying attention. Might pick up a couple of medevacs, or might just be completely surrounded. Geralt's rest of the army coming from the north side is late to the south side. He loses disruptors. He still has two more, but he did not take out a base. He actually hardly took out SCVs.
That's got to be demoralizing. Now there's a bunch of ghosts. They've been training secretly, and now they're here. And they have the EMPs to dish. It's going to be difficult. No third, like you mentioned, a very small squad from souL actively doing a little bit more than Gerald could, because the CC was just lifted. I really would have liked to see him hunt for those SCVs. At this point, I am not sure what Gerald can do, Jess.
Hope for another base trade, but souL is playing a pretty smart strategy here, just keeping Liberators in a tank at home, reinforcements at home while dropping, because, well, I mean, even if Geralt was also defending, souL's drops are actually an army that can actually take on Geralt. So this is the safest call. He's going to win the base trade. That's a lot of SCVs to go down, but this is also where Geralt's natural goes down alongside some really crucial production. Robo goes down. DTs can just be EMP'd, so they're not going to be able to save the day.
Gotta appreciate the DTs, but yeah, like you said, EMP is available, and that's gonna be a big problem for them. The army of Geralt trying to pull back to try and fight, but even the small squad from souL is going to be enough to stop them and even kill the Immortals. The Disruptors pull back now and will get amazing shots. But is that enough?
No, not so much. This is another Disruptor loses almost every single Nexus. The only Nexus left alive is just finishing. 30 probes somehow survive, but maybe not for long. As I said, all the production is being taken out, so Geralt's down to his last army. If a Disruptor shot hits this one and then somehow he can race across the map, well, he'd probably still be dead because he can't really take on Liberators.
Alrighty, I mean, Geralt is sticking, and I love that he stuck around and he actually kind of made a game out of this. If he could have established that third, if he could have held on for a little bit longer, I think we might have had potential for game 5, but as it is looking, Roddy is going to be correcting his prediction, and I think that is for most people the expected result here. So I really want to see him cement himself as the player that we know he can be, or is really, just on ladder and not often enough in tournaments. He's showing it here. He's showing a very strong game.
GG, good luck. souL will take the